Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media.
Today on Spotlight, they've been a trailblazer for the blind, how this school pushed boundaries for their students. Plus, changing the lives of people with epilepsy with the most powerful MRI machine in North America. And then exploring the impact of corn. See everything from a corn cob collection to corn paper. But first, tracing the history of the life on and near the Mississippi. It's Sunday, and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
Native Americans Lewis and Clark and Mark Twain all found freedom and adventure on the mighty Mississippi. Boyce Upholt explores its history, geography, and ecosystem, and how America grew up learning to coexist with the river in his new book, The Great River, The Making and Unmaking of the Mississippi.
I found myself captivated by indigenous earthworks that go back 4,000 years, and in that case, there's no paper record, right? But it was a lot of time in the library stacks at Tulane University near where I live. I gave myself a graduate level education in a lot of topics.
For Upholt, part of that education involved taking a canoe from St. Louis to New Orleans in 2017 to really connect with the river.
I think of St. Louis as being the heart of the Mississippi. In some ways, my river begins here, right? What makes the Mississippi River so powerful is the way it draws together so many different waterways. And this is the first important confluence where the Missouri and the Mississippi come together. This is where it starts to become a really big river. And because of that, it's been so important in all this engineering history, right? So James Buchanan Eads is a St. Louisan who comes up in the book quite a bit. The grandeur of his accomplishment building the Eads Bridge here in St. Louis, it took a long time before anyone was daring enough to try and bridge the river after that confluence because the water got so big and so powerful.
Despite Upholt's fascination with the history and the engineering surrounding the river, its untamed nature really drove him to write this book.
Part of what made me fall in love with the Mississippi River was that it is not suburbia. And despite all the engineering and human intrusions, it is so big that it remains wild. I hope that people will endure the mosquitoes and go out and experience it. The more people that know the river and love the river, the better the river will be taken care of.
So growing up in St. Louis, and we grew up with Mark Twain and Lewis and Clark's expedition, and it was really fun for me to read that part in the book. It was such a huge deal to get to go down to the arch, and we had the Admiral here, and we got to take a steamboat ride up and down the river. Some of that has gone by the wayside. We don't have that as much. So how can people get back on the river? How do you encourage them to get back out and see what you see instead of focusing on the mosquitoes and the other stuff that comes with the river?
Sometimes you just have to endure the mosquitoes. But yeah, it is really important to me. I think that because of the geology here, the Army Corps for navigation had to build the Chain of Rocks Canal. So there's this very man-made canal that goes north from the city. But that leaves a stretch of river where there's no barge traffic whatsoever. And so a very rare place on the Mississippi that you can go and kayak and canoe and not have to worry about running into commercial traffic. And so in 2017, I actually canoed from here in St. Louis all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. And of that whole trip, maybe my favorite night of camping was on an island called Mosentine Island, which is in this stretch just north of St. Louis. It was the coldest night of the trip, but that was really made up for by the fact that I was sitting on this, giant hump of sand, willow forest behind me. I could hear the coyotes howling. And then as the sun goes down, I can see downtown St. Louis from my campsite and the lights coming on. And it's just such a spectacular vision of the wildness that is in an urban backyard and how close we are to such a magical, beautiful place. And I hope that people in St. Louis know that. If not, I think I really encourage you to go and find a kayak, find a paddle, find someone who can guide you and see that space, because I think it will transform your sense of where this city is and what this city is.
How did your journalism background lead you to this?
I moved to Mississippi as a 25-ish-year-old, and so I've never actually had a job for a newspaper or even for a magazine. I've always been a freelancer, and so I'm always kind of running around trying to find things that I find interesting, and that's often been stories about the environment. It's been adventure stories, for lack of a better word, going out and exploring places that I find interesting. And so I think it makes sense that I came to this book because, I moved to Mississippi and had this giant river in my backyard, and eventually I made my way there and was so taken with what I found.
To find out why he tried to see the river through the eyes of a fish and what he discovered, watch the full interview at hecmedia.org.
They are the best-selling authors and all of your favorite genres. For in-depth, one-on-one interviews, go to hecmedia.org.
History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis, and this is History Spotlight. The Missouri School for the Blind has been a trailblazer in education for visually impaired students since its inception in 1851. They have pioneered many innovative techniques and technologies to facilitate learning. K-12 Programs Coordinator Emily Kelso shares how the school pushed boundaries to ensure equal access to education.
One of the most innovative and important educational institutions in U.S. history.
Next week on History Spotlight, we dive into St. Louis blues music.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.
HEC Media, bringing you culture and community. Find all of HEC's positive programming and award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
It's the most powerful MRI machine in North America, and it's right here in Missouri, helping people with a variety of conditions and diseases.
The 7 Tesla is a game changer. It gives us incredible detail that we don't necessarily have in other types of scans.
The type of detail that can diagnose and help treat diseases that can be very difficult to diagnose.
It's so small that you wouldn't have been able to see it with a regular MRI.
Diseases like epilepsy, a neurological condition that causes seizures and other health problems.
The whole brain can have an electrical storm at one time, or a seizure can start from a little area of the brain and then spread.
In Columbia, Missouri, MU Healthcare and NextGen Precision Health are partners with Siemens Healthineers. The group is one of 32 health systems in the country with this powerful 7T MRI scanner. And good thing, because this machine helped change the lives of 2 Missourians with epilepsy by finding answers. Meet Dylan Davenport and Becky Gooch. Becky and Dylan both suffered with epilepsy that resisted treatment for years. Becky had her first absence seizure in her 40s.
It was scary when I felt it coming on. My husband and my kids a lot of times didn't want me to go anywhere. They wanted me to stay home.
As a level 4 epilepsy center, MU Healthcare is able to diagnose, manage, and treat even the most complex forms of epilepsy. According to epileptologist Dr. Kamal Ashraf, patients like Becky and Dylan had the condition for a decade before seeing a specialist with the right tools to help, including this very large and important one.
There's a dedication from the top down. We're in a place where people from St. Louis and Kansas City, it used to be that patients were leaving here to have their treatment there, and now the opposite is the case.
For years, Becky's doctors weren't sure where her seizures were coming from. The fine detail of the 7T scanner helped find lesions causing her seizures. Dr. Ashraf recommended surgery.
We got a much better view of it, could understand where it was in space, and be able to guide our neurosurgeons on how to approach that area better.
In the months following her November of 2023 surgery, Becky's seizures stopped and she's taking fewer medications.
I don't have to worry about the side effects of the medication anymore. Don't have to be afraid anymore. It's really changed my life. It really has.
19-year-old Dylan struggled with a condition called generalized epilepsy. One Easter, the electrical network in his brain went into overdrive.
I had 14 seizures. I had to be moved to 3 different hospitals.
The third hospital was University Hospital, where MU Healthcare's epilepsy team took advanced scans of Dylan's brain. Surgery to remove brain matter would not work, so Dr. Ashraf suggested deep brain stimulation using an implanted device to target the thalamus.
DBS was chosen because the thalamus is a hub in that network. So it's knocking out that hub. And that's why we think that it works for the type of epilepsy he has.
Dylan's device has helped him stop taking medications that made him exhausted. Now he's golfing, fishing, working, and setting his sights higher.
To go 6 months without any seizures so I can get my driver's license. And then my next goal is to be able to go to college, to be able to get my welding degree.
Dylan and Becky are among 3 million adults in the U.S. diagnosed with epilepsy. The 7T MRI scanner shows what can happen with the right tools in the right hands.
Really good epilepsy care is a multidisciplinary approach. So a really robust team that has many different services, many different disciplines, expertise that are represented.
Later on Spotlight, meet an art fair artist that blows glass and another who draws animals.
We are currently in the Stephen and Peter Sachs Museum at the Missouri Botanical Garden, and right now we're featuring a special exhibition called Kernels of Culture, Maize Around the World, which is on view until March 31st, 2025. And it explores the worldwide impact of this amazing plant called maize that started out very, very long ago, many thousands of years ago, in southern Mexico, and eventually has become one of the top 3 grains that are grown and sold and shipped around the world. So when you enter the Stephen and Peter Sachs Museum, our lower level gallery features 211 student artworks. These artworks were created by students in St. Louis area schools under the tutelage of their art teachers, who were all participating in a special call where I asked them to have their students create artworks that show how they enjoy corn. And so we have a massive gamut of popcorn at the movies, enjoying corn mazes or corn sticks, corn dogs, making corn with their family in the kitchen, tamales even. So there's many different ways that I think a lot of the visitors will be able to appreciate that they too enjoy corn through these student artworks. When you head upstairs into our main gallery, that is a room that is filled with a lot of cases and cabinets, so it's a perfect place to display all these fabulous objects and artworks that feature corn. We have several items that are made by indigenous artists that are on view, including corn husk dolls, as well as all sorts of pop culture, corn, food, corn cob pipes from the Missouri Meerschaum Company in Washington, Missouri, as well as science displays from some of the contemporary science organizations that are here in St. Louis. One of the key reasons that I ended up curating an exhibition on maize was because the garden herbarium has a multi-thousand corn cob collection called the Anderson Cutler Maize Collection, and it features corn that was collected from throughout Southwest America, Mexico, and even northern South America. These cobs are featured in different sections throughout the exhibition, and they highlight the incredible visual and genetic and historic diversity of maize that started, 9,000 years ago when people started farming it. And the third gallery that we have is our South Gallery, which has the work of one artist named Megan Singleton. And our horticulture team grew corn for her, and she used that from corn cobs, photographs of corn cobs, as well as turning all of the stalks of the corn into special paper that she has created multiple sculptures with in the gallery. So you can explore the genetics of corn, the physicality of a corn stalk, as well as the multicolored corn cobs that are a part of her display. We hope you come and check out all of the wonderful, colorful diversity in Kernels of Culture, Maize Around the World, the special exhibition at the Stephen and Peter Sachs Museum on view until March 31st, 2025. The museum is a part of the garden, as a part of daily garden admission, and it's open from 11:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the evening.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
Driving down this quiet street of well-manicured homes in Webster Groves, one house stands out. At first glimpse, it looks just like an overgrown yard. But look closer, and you'll see it's actually part of a growing trend called foodscaping.
Foodscaping is the practice, very similar to landscaping, of utilizing food-producing plants instead of the traditional landscaping plants that we're used to seeing, whereas we might see things like boxwoods and hydrangeas. Foodscaping would replace those things with things like the pie cherry or the blueberry.
And if you plant it right, you can enjoy fresh fruits and vegetables all year long.
There's definitely foods that in the grocery store or even a farmer's market, there's still some degree of separation from you and your food and where your food was grown. That even small degree of separation makes a difference in the flavor. Yeah, sure, you can go buy a tomato in January in St. Louis, but it's not going to taste like my tomatoes fresh off the vine in July. I garden in all 4 seasons. This behind you here is something called a cold frame. So right now I have cherry tomatoes and Roma tomatoes planted here. But this weekend I also put some leaf lettuce in. And what I'll do is I'll put a cover over this winter, and because it's got that nice south-facing sun, I'll be able to grow lettuce all throughout the winter, and we'll have fresh salads all throughout the winter.
As a physician, Rebecca says that in addition to the taste, there are also definite health benefits of eating foods you grow yourself.
There are plants that I grow that are purely medicinal. So chamomile is one example. I grow that. I harvest the flowers, dehydrate them, and we use them in teas. You're always better off eating a tomato than you are eating a candy bar. But probably there is some degradation in the nutrients. And I think you also have to take into consideration the health benefits of emissions and how long it takes to get there. Is this coming from a place that pesticides aren't super regulated, that sort of thing. So I think there's that value.
And she says those health benefits go well beyond just physical.
The mental health benefits of this garden, I think, are the biggest benefits that I get from it. So I always say that my favorite way to come in from work is to park my car, come into the garden, harvest a few things, get my hands a little dirty, and then go inside. Even just having that walk through the garden and that sense of piece and seeing, oh, that's almost ready for harvesting, or oh wow, that bloomed, or oh my gosh, look at all the pollinators here. That is such a rewarding feeling, knowing that I planted this and I helped it grow.
Part of foodscaping is also trying to change the culture around grass and its effects on the environment.
We really are stressing to people that if your grass lawn isn't serving you to, picnic on or to play, games on, then converting that lawn into something that provides food and medicine and habitat for both you and all of the insect, bird, and butterfly life around us, that would be a way better option than something that has, no benefit on the environment or to us.
And as the Chibnall family found out, not having a grass-covered front lawn has one more benefit.
And I think people would be surprised at how nice it is to not mow a lawn. My husband at this point is the one who mows the grass. I do all the gardening, he mows the grass. And he's really excited for us to have absolutely no grass in the front yard very soon. We always say you can't eat the grass. So we want to have everything in the front yard be edible.
For more St. Louis stories, subscribe to the HEC YouTube channel. Connect STL from HEC Media. Mark your calendars for the 2024 St. Louis Art Fair, September 6th through the 8th. Get to know the artists and their art before heading out to the fair with HEC Media's Meet the Artists series at youtube.com/meettheartists.
I'm Douglas Sigworth, and I am one half of the collaborative partnership between myself and my wife, who is Renee Sigworth, and we are Sigworth Glass Studio. We work with blown glass. When I met Renee 30 years ago, she had just caught the glass blowing bug. I was already following her around everywhere she went, so it was only natural that I would end up following her directly into the glass blowing studio. So eventually it became our thing, and we've been working together ever since. Most of our collectors tell us that they are initially attracted to our use of color within our work. Our watercolor series, for example, is an ethereal balance of transparent and opaque layers of colored glass. But beyond the visual, a common response that we get about our work is often how it makes people feel. And then there's one other distinction. We often like to work in collections, so we will use multiple forms that will make up a larger piece. We work with blown glass, where we heat glass to a molten temperature of 2100 degrees. At that temperature, glass has the consistency of honey, and we build up multiple layers at the end of a steel blowpipe. And then once all the layers of clear and colored glass have been applied, we heat it to its core, and we blow into the pipe, and we create its desired shape using pads of wet newspaper, centrifugal force, and gravity. We are truly addicted to the process of glass blowing. It is an immersive and dynamic process that awakens all of your senses. We will feel the heat, we'll smell the burning wood and the paper. As the glass grows, we react to its evolution. Every time we make a piece, it's a brand new experience, and that is what keeps us excited to get into the glass blowing studio every single day. We hope that when people see our work, that there is an experiential quality to it. We love the flow that happens as blown glass moves and expands as we're working on it, and we hope that that fluidity translates into our final designs. We look forward to seeing you at the St. Louis Art Fair, and we hope that our work inspires you and brings you joy, as much joy as we get from creating the work ourselves.
My name's Melissa. I'm from Wisconsin. I am a fine art scratchboard artist. Scratchboard is amazing for texture, so I love it for wildlife. I have done other like landscape and portraiture work in scratchboard, but I definitely prefer wildlife. So the scratchboard starts completely black, the white's underneath. I do sketch on the board first, just with pencil. Basic sketch just to get the outlines in, the major features, the proportions correct before I start actually scratching, and that's one of the most important pieces of the process, just because it's the only like blueprint that I have before I start actually putting down those scratches that once they're down, they can't be taken back. I use different abrasive tools, knives, needle tools, fiberglass brushes, wire brushes. I can use sandpaper or steel wool if there are large areas that need to be scratched off. But it's a combination of those tools to create the different textures and values that I need to create my photorealistic wildlife work. I have always been an animal lover of all different kinds. You can see in my work, I don't focus on any animal in particular. You know, I kind of bounce between birds and big exotic wildlife, African wildlife, to squirrels from your backyard, horses, cows. You know, I do the whole gamut. I love them so much. I love to focus on those details, and especially their eyes, because I truly do believe that animals have souls and feelings, and you know, we can connect with them on personal levels, human to animal. I am truly driven by the ability for artwork and images of wildlife to really speak to people and kind of raise the awareness that there are so many animals that really do need our protection and our focus, so they can be protected, because it is because of humans that a lot of these species are endangered, going extinct, losing their habitats, losing their food sources, all that kind of thing. So I really hope that my work inspires people to at least look at animals in a different way if they haven't connected quite that intimately with wildlife in the past, that maybe just looking at them and looking at those specific details that I've able to capture in my scratchboard gets them there a little faster.
You can find the stories featured in today's show along with past episodes and more at hecmedia.org/spotlight.
To hurt anybody, I just wanna love somebody like you. So let go, let your love light shine. Anytime we lit our seasons alive, never darken up your night. Set fire to your day. Tell me what you want, babe, love, I'll be it. Fly so high, I know you can see it. We got feelings, you can turn on into me. We can learn to be real free.
Next week, we'll tell you everything you can expect at this year's St. Louis Art Fair. Find out the history of the festival and meet some of the artists. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.